So have you had a health or wellness goal that you never seem to be able to hit? Maybe you've got so much stuff on your plate, you have no idea how the busiest people on the planet actually make time for themselves? Well, if you're anything like me, thinking that you need to sacrifice or take on more makes you want to run the opposite direction. Well, if that's the case, don't run. This video was literally made for you. I want to share 3 powerful wellness hacks that help me lose 100 pounds and keep it off for 10 years. It's also how I've helped people who are the busiest leaders on the planet still continue to make themselves and their family a priority. If you want a new strategy for 2023 that doesn't require you to work out at the gym 5 hours a day or give up the food that you really enjoy, keep watching because that's what I'm going to share. Let's go. So welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. We help leaders build massive influence so they can make an impact not only in their career, in their business, but at home too. We do that via quick tip videos on Mondays and Thursdays to help personalize these strategies for your specific leadership roles. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, but let's jump right into these wellness hacks. So I said in the beginning of this video that I was 100 pounds heavier than I am today. I actually weighed 267 pounds, and I remember the day that I actually stood on the scale, and I couldn't believe that that's what had happened. Now, what's crazy is when I look at my life now, I'm actually doing more now than I was back then. So how in the world was I able to lose 100 pounds and keep it off? It's because I really focus on these 3 hacks. So hack number 1 is always focus on mindset first. Now, mindset is described as a person's way of thinking, a frame of mind, or an attitude. I like to think of mindset as the collection of ideas, of thoughts, of stories that we have going around in our head. It's either heading us towards our goals or away from them. These are things like, well, I just don't have the time, or I have to give something up in order to achieve this goal. I just have so much on my plate right now, but I've tried this before and it didn't work. So what's going to make this time any different? What's crazy, guys, is your brain is literally there to help get you off track. It actually wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you in the past, which means you're never going to be able to do anything new. And your brain is super smart. It will throw anything it possibly can to prevent you from taking more action. But what's awesome about that is when we understand that that's what our brain is trying to do, we can actually go a different route. And how we do that is we start focusing on our mindset, the stories, the beliefs that we have going on in here. So what if you started to think, you know what? I am working on my health and it does not have to be perfect. This is what success looks like. Or how about this? I'm doing this for my kids. Or how about this? I'm finding ways to inject wellness into my life without having to sacrifice anything. Can you just see how those statements make you feel completely different? Now, the truth is this isn't naturally going to happen to you all of a sudden. I kind of like to think about it as changing directions in a battleship. It takes time, and it's going to be something that requires some work. But I have some strategy here to help you. First, I want you to think of a time when your health was most on point, when you had energy, you had motivation, you were showing up on your A game. Now, what were some of the things that you were doing that caused you to feel that way? Who were some of the people that you were hanging out with? And what kind of lessons were you learning that actually made you want to show up with a high level of energy? What were some of the stories that you had going around in your head? What were some of those thoughts and beliefs that got you to get after it day after day? Now, when I asked myself this, a couple things came to fruition for me. Number 1 was personal growth. Anytime that I'm learning something new, I feel like I'm not stuck. When I'm not learning something new, it's very easy for me to get into a closed mindset because I'm not willing to go out there and find the answers. The truth is, you don't need to have the answers as long as you're willing to grow and you're in the process of doing that. The next thing I found is that mindset is contagious. And so if I was hanging out with other people who valued their health, who valued their family, who valued their leadership, it was only natural for me to take on those actions myself. But the opposite was true too. If I was hanging out with the wrong people, it was very easy to start taking on their beliefs, start taking on their actions, and start taking on their thoughts, which would actually keep me stuck. That's why I make sure that number 1, I'm always growing, and number 2, I'm always surrounding myself with the right people. Now, hack number 2 is diving into the tactics. Now, I like to describe tactics as an action or strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end. If you're a police officer like me, you know that tactics are how to get from A to Z in the safest and fastest way possible. Now, you're probably wondering how to do that when it comes to your personal health. And I'm going to give you some suggestions in terms of the tactics that really worked well for me. Now, what I'm not going to do is share all the different workouts that I did, because as you'll hear, that wasn't the reason why I lost 100 pounds. So let's dive right into fitness. So I like to think of fitness as 2 separate things. It's the actual exercise program and it's the movement that you're getting throughout the day. One is not more important than the other, but I find that so many people put so much attention into one or the other. Now, the best thing you can do is find a great balance of both. So based off of the exercise program you're doing and the amount of activity and movement that you're getting throughout the day, which one is going to be your focus this next week? And remember, it's the small things you do consistently that matter most. Now let's dive into nutrition. Now, so many people think they need to remove so many different things from their life. That wasn't the case for me. Instead, I asked myself, how can I reduce instead of remove? I don't know. There's just something about me that when people tell me I can't do something, I want to actually do the opposite of that. So instead of thinking about the things that I had to remove, I started to think about what are some of the things that I can reduce. So I want you to think about this logically. All the things you've been consuming, all the things you've been eating, all of the things that you've been doing for your exercise have got you to the point where you are right now. So if you change one of those variables, you're actually going to be moving closer towards your goal, even if all you're doing is reducing that thing a little. So many people always think that this is an all or nothing thing, and it doesn't have to be. What's crazy too is like some of the things that I decided to reduce, ultimately because I started to feel better, I ended up deciding to remove it. But it was my decision, not the diet and not somebody else telling me what I couldn't have. The second piece to nutrition is all about substitutions. Like if you love pizza, if you love hot dogs, if you love hamburgers, if you love fries, there's a way of making slight adjustments to make that thing a little bit healthier for you. Once again, if you're taking these steps, you're moving towards your goal. This is never an all or nothing thing. Thinking about how I can have something that I really enjoy eating, but doing it in a way where I'm reducing it or actually substituting some things to make it healthier is going to help you have success. Now, the last thing to do with nutrition is drinking water. Now, I have to say, when it comes to losing 100 pounds, this helped me a lot. I just replaced many of the other things that I would drink that was not water and slowly reduced it over time. Lastly, talking about health, I want to talk about your sleep and recovery. Yes, we're going there. Now, there's this really powerful book called Sleep Smarter. I'll leave it in the comments below so you guys can take a look at it on Amazon. It is a powerful book talking about the importance of sleep. Now, being a shift worker for most of my life, I know that I had to find new and creative ways of getting the sleep I needed to so that I can generate the energy I needed for the next day. Now, it definitely wasn't perfect, and I'm still working on it right now, but being able to identify some things you can do to sleep better is super powerful. Your body needs to rest. It needs to recover. And if you're not giving your body the rest and recovery that it needs, you're going to have a difficult time really taking control of your health. All right, so we talked about mindset, we talked about tactics. How do I get myself to show up consistently, Mark? That takes us into hack number 3, which is social cost. You see, energy, motivation, taking action, mindset, tactics, all of those things are contagious. And if you really want to set yourself up for success, make sure that you get other people involved. Now, what sucks is most of the time we show up for other people more than we show up for ourselves. But how could we use that to our advantage? And that's by letting other people know the mission that we are on, to get as many people involved in your mission as humanly possible. That could be a coach, it could be a team, it could be the people that you surround yourself with who are going to be there to push you and to support you along the way. How much harder is it for you to give in on your goal if other people know that that goal is important or meaningful to you? It is very easy to convince ourselves if nobody else knows. And that's why you got to do the hard things of bringing other people into the equation. Now that you know how the busiest people on the planet focus on their wellness, you're probably wondering, how do I create the massive momentum I need, not only to see things through to the end, but to experience a true life transformation? Well, don't worry, because I've got you covered. Hit up this next workshop. I took people through an exercise to help them build up massive momentum so they can finish what they started strong. This is critical for your health, but it's also important when it comes to every leadership role that you have. Don't forget to subscribe and keep leading from the front. See you in the next video.